if you talk about the last elections of Turkey, the media coverage of elections was very biased. I'm not saying that only because I felt that way. It was obvious. For instance, let's say almost all the television channels, save 2 or 3 TV channels, which I mean this is correct, were heavily supporting the government, despite the fact, I mean, forgetting the journalist's job is to give the right information, correct information to the readers. That wasn't at all the case. What happened was the almost 80% of the Turkish media, I hate to say that, but it was heavily supporting the government, despite the fact the mistake they were making. They were, you can never see that anywhere in the world. The people in power making a mistake, but the media was trying to cover it, saying that, well, they didn't mean that, they meant this. For instance, just a day before the election, there was a big meeting in Diyarbakir, which is a heavily Kurdish populated city, Diyarbakir. There was this horrible bombing event. The very next day, when you read your papers, when you watch the TV channels, you could think that nothing was happening, or they were trying to find excuses. Why did it happen? Who did that? There's a famous saying in Turkish, whatever we cannot choose, what we cannot analyze, we just say the big provocation. Okay, big provocation, but as a journalist, we must find out who was behind it, what was happening, why did it happen, how did it happen. You know, in Turkey, some of us forget the basic rules of journalism. This is our problem. We don't ask questions. Firstly, why this is happening? Firstly is the media ownership, because the almost 2/3 of the papers in Turkey, maybe more than that, are owned by the people, by the businessmen who are very close to the AK Party, AKP, whatever you call them, and this business and the politics are very much intertwined. But I can't find the word.
Intertwined.
Yes, it is. As I say, I mean, I shall repeat myself, but they are acting like the news bulletin of the government. There are really funny examples of that. Something is happening, prime minister or president is saying something, the next day some certain papers, 5 or 6 big selling papers, they were using the almost the same titles for the news. All of a sudden, hundreds of people almost became columnists. All they were doing was to support the government, whatever happens, save 3 or 4 dailies, 2 or 3 television channels. The whole media was almost acting like the government's mouthpiece. When I say censorship, I don't mean that they banned the papers, they put everybody into the jail. But point is, the climate of fear was horrible. I'm including myself, we began to apply auto-censorship, self-censorship on ourselves. We were very, wait, what happens if I write that? Time allocated to the government, to the people in power. Say, if it is 10 hours, the whole opposition, rightist, leftist, religious or not religious, doesn't matter, didn't even have 1 hour airtime. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's what happened in Turkey. If every party had the equal airtime, or newspapers acting like newspapers, trying to provide their readers with the correct information, of course things would be, it would affect the outcome of the elections, because the result of the elections forces political parties in Turkey to form a coalition. Definitely things will be much better, because the absolute power of AKP was really made them drunk, despite the fact they don't drink. They made them drunk with power. They just thought, okay, I can pass 12 legislation in one night. Now, that won't be the case. That media structure, ownership, or relations between ownership, politics, and the capitalism will be much more tolerable.